I'll now call the Budget Committee meeting to order, and we'll go through a roll call before we read through the right to know law meeting checklist. And bear with me while I get my list of, that's not it. Okay, so Suzanne Heward.
Here.
Oh, and if you could also tell us if you are alone or if there's somebody else in the room. So
It is
Suzanne,
it is I and a fan.
okay.
And a
Denise
rotating
Knoll.
fan.
Angela Matthews.
Present and alone.
Emily Leach.
I'm here and currently alone.
Yep. Lynn Spring.
Yep, I'm here and alone.
Charlie George.
Yeah, I'm here on Sybil's tablet and alone.
Joe Desch.
Here and alone.
Michelle Small.
Here, my husband is in the house, but not the room.
Peter Lampesis. Okay, Peter's not on yet. I know he's been traveling and he's down south right now, so maybe he couldn't make it. Allison Coolitti.
I'm here and alone.
And I am here. And who have I missed?
Denise, I'm here and alone.
I asked Denise already.
You did?
So, yep, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I've got Suzanne, Denise, Angela, Emily, Lynn, Charlie George, Joe Desch. Oh, I know why, because we're missing one, because we're one shy.
Yep.
We're a vacancy. Okay.
Right.
So right now we're missing Peter Lampesis, who may join. I'm going to now read the right to know law meeting checklist for the town of Rollinsford. As chair of the Budget Committee, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this committee is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are using the Google Meets platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through the Google Meets platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting through dialing the following phone number: 1-385-645-8129, and using the identification PIN number 803-211-937 hashtag, or by clicking the following website address: https:// as in Maynard, EET as in Tom, google.com/P as in Peter, W as in William, B as in Bill, dash F as in Frank, E as in Edward, J as in John, J as in John, dash R as in Robert, I as in I don't know what, Ingrid, Z as in Zed. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public on how to access the meeting using Google Meets, and instructions are provided on the town website at rollinsford.nh.us. Providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 534-1049, and I assume that's a 603 number, or email at admin@rollinsford.nh.us. Adjourning the public, if the public is unable to access, we'll adjourn the meeting if the public is not able to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it scheduled for another time. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call vote. And it says to start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. We've already done that. When each member states their presence, also please state whether there's anyone in the room or if you're during the meeting or with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. And we've already done that with all the members. Is there anybody from the public who would like to identify themselves at this time? Okay, hearing none. I will then now bring up the agenda for tonight's meeting, which I circulated earlier today. We have done the first three. So the next item on the agenda is to review the prior meeting minutes. And so that would be from Brianna. What was the last meeting date? Not the one last week, but the one before. Is that May?
May 13th.
So the May 13th meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
I move
So
to
moved.
accept meeting minutes as presented previously.
Do we have a second? Does anyone want a second accepting the meeting minutes? We'll still discuss them. I just need to get it onto the floor.
I will second that. Angela. It's Angela.
Angela Matthews seconds. Is there any discussion of the meeting minutes from last meeting?
Can I ask a question really quick?
Yes, you may.
Is Charlie Dion not on the committee anymore?
That's
He is
correct.
not.
Okay. Alrighty. Perfect.
Okay, then hearing no more requests for discussion, we will go to a roll call vote to accept the minutes as written. I'll read off each individual's name and please indicate your vote. So Suzanne Heward,
Oh, this is a very sad moment. Because with the roll call vote, I'm forced to admit that I haven't read them and will need to abstain. I'm really sorry.
okay. You're going to capture the vote, right, Brianna?
Yep.
Thanks. I'm trying to do notes on the side, but I'm not going to do that. So Denise Knowles,
Yes.
Angela Matthews,
Yes.
Emily Leach,
Yes.
Lynn Spring,
Yes.
Charlie George,
Yes.
Joe Desch,
Yes.
Michelle, I think you were absent, but
Yes. So I would abstain.
okay. Has Peter Lampesis joined us? He
No.
has not. Allison Colletti, you were not there either. So how many yeses do we have?
6.
So I will vote yes to accept them to make a quorum.
Okay.
All right. I meant to, but did not circulate the minutes from last week that where we appointed the CIP representative. We'll have to review and approve those minutes at the next meeting. Sorry about that, Brianna. I just
Oh, it's okay.
didn't see it in time. Okay. The next item on the agenda is to go over the updated meeting schedule, and bear with me, I'm going to bring it up on the screen. And the reason I'm bringing it up again is that there have been some comments about some of the dates that we have in here. And so I've brought up a red line revised version of the meeting schedule. And the proposed revisions, and I believe I have this right, were originally I had put in November 11th as a meeting date, and then Angela informed me that that was Veterans Day, which I hadn't seen on my calendar. So I had looked to try pushing that a week, but that would be the weekend, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Denise suggested doing it on a Tuesday, on the 10th, and I think that's a good suggestion as long as it's not conflicting with anything. Does anybody have a problem with us having our November presentation meeting on the 10th of November as opposed to a Wednesday? So it'd be a Tuesday, the 10th.
I have no problem. This is Joe.
Okay. Does anybody else have any? So I will switch that to the 10th, and then I'll forward that on to be published. I can't remember why and I should have brought my calendar up at the same time. Can someone look at November 25th and see what day?
I think that's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And my suggestion was not to schedule something for that.
I agree
Okay.
with that suggestion.
Oh, come on. You guys are no fun.
That's a great suggestion, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Okay, what that does is that we've got a pretty tightly packed schedule moving forward. So we could shift that to a earlier day in the week, like we did. And I haven't checked to see availability, and we don't have to resolve this now, but if you have ideas of how we would do that without pushing the whole schedule by a week, let me know.
Well,
Any thoughts?
yeah, but I don't know if I want to bring them up at this moment just because of,
Okay.
but I do, maybe later on we can start a conversation with some of the thoughts that I had.
Right.
Is there a reason not to have it on the 18th? I don't see anything on the 18th. So we'd go the 10th, which is a Tuesday of 1 week, and then the following week would be the Wednesday.
Oops, I've lost my. So that's a proposal. We can look at that. This doesn't have to be resolved. Obviously, we've got a little bit of time, but the thing also that I'd like to bring up while we've got it in front of us is Allison, the Rollinsford Water and Sewer District presentation is currently slated to be on the November 10th now, and sometimes we've gotten all the way to the week before the presentations, and we've heard, oh, we're not ready yet. And so it would be really helpful if that's a date that, and the reason, there were good reasons for not being ready. I think one year the district was waiting for an engineer's report that was going to factor into their budget. And so, but it would be really great if you could take this back to the commissioners and get buy-in for this date so that we can set it and we don't get, up to the day and find out it's got to be postponed.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I will bring that up to them next week when we meet.
Perfect. Thanks. And similar goes for you, Emily. I don't know if I think you already did check it with the school board and that we're okay as presented. And you're muted, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, that date was fine. It was the deliberative session that I imagine you're going to get to in a minute that we had as a different date.
Yeah, and I'll put whatever you want in the deliberative session. That's not really for the budget committee to,
Right.
to decide. It's just nice to have it all in one place. So
Absolutely.
I think I made that change. Is this what you had?
It would be the 2nd of February with a snow date of the 4th.
Yeah. So that change is marked in here. I'm getting a message from Angela that she's logged in twice and that she's getting a message that she's echoing. I'm not hearing an echo from you, Angela. Are you able to say something so we can hear you?
Well, I'm still here. If it is echoing now, it's resolved. It's a problem, and I will have questions, and I don't want it to be a factor in, later in the meeting. So is there an echo?
No, there's a little bit of a funny sound behind you, but it's perfectly clear to understand what you're saying.
Oh, okay, great. I will not jump out then and jump back in. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so Suzanne, did you want to cover that under, I know you wanted to talk about schedule. Do you want to cover that under other business later on?
Sure.
Okay. Then we will revisit the day before Thanksgiving and find a date that fits better at another time. But for now, I don't think we need to discuss unless anybody has anything more about the schedule they want to discuss right now, we'll move on. Okay, so the next item I have on the list is the budget committee vacancy with Paul being elected to the select board. That left a vacancy. He has resigned from the budget committee as expected. In last year, the way we filled the position was by advertising on the website and for people who are interested, and also going out and asking friends that we know who are residents of the town who might be interested, then asking them to submit a letter of interest to the town, and that would indicate, what they bring to the budget committee and why they'd want to be on it, and we evaluate those applications. And in the past, we've had 2 vacancies with 2 applicants, so it was very easy, and both were very good. So that hopefully we can find somebody. But I was just suggesting that as a committee, we ask the town to do that advertisement again to fill the vacancy. If anybody maybe want a motion to do that.
I'll move that we do that, and I also have a question.
Okay, and a second on.
I'll second that. Emily.
Thanks, Emily. And so discussion, go ahead, Suzanne.
Well, maybe I missed what you said. I mean, I thought we made this motion at our first meeting of the year. So I guess we haven't done this yet. And so is that correct?
Well, I haven't heard anything about anybody wanting to join. And to be honest, my memory of that isn't as clear. And
Can we ask Caroline if she remembers putting it out there?
Yes. Is Caroline still online?
I'm still online. I was not present at the initial meeting when you may or may not have voted to do this. And I remember a conversation, I think with John, an email conversation about this, but I'm sorry, I can't remember any details. I don't believe it was posted though. So this is helpful and we can move forward with this.
Okay.
So if we already had a motion, and maybe we can quickly check the minutes of that meeting.
And I can suggest, let's just so to be clear, we could just do another roll call. I think that then you don't have to.
Perfect. Fair. All right. So we've got the motion. It's been seconded. And now we'll go through a roll call vote. And this will be to request that the town advertise the vacancy bear with me, advertise the vacancy for the Budget Committee, and then we go through the evaluation process as we have done in the past. I'm sorry, I'm fiddling around trying to find the, no, not that, trying to find the right, my list. Here we go. So all in favor, or those are in favor, I'll start with Suzanne. Yes means
Yes.
we go forward. Suzanne says yes. Denise Knowles,
Yes.
Angela Matthews,
Yes.
Emily Lee,
Yes.
Lynn Spring,
Yes.
Charlie George,
Yes.
Joe Desch,
Yes.
Michelle Small,
Yes.
Allison Colletti,
Yes.
and Peter, you're still not on the line, I take it? He's still not on. So that's a quorum. The motion passes. Great. Bear with me while I find my agenda again. I think we're ready to start in on the budget reviews. We are. So Denise, I'd ask that you present the current spending status of the town budget. I do have a copy that you sent out earlier. I can pull it up on the screen if that's helpful. But you can kind of talk through sort of the things that maybe we should go page by page on it.
John, can I make a suggestion?
You may.
It's helpful to me, and maybe I'm the only one, to sort of just hear from Denise what a big picture is, what she thinks what the current state of affairs is, what she thinks with regard to our overall spending, our overall revenue. And that would just kind of set a context for us to then, if people would like to go through it page by page.
Sure.
An idea.
Okay. All right. So we're in pretty good shape. COVID has affected our budget as it has everyone's. So what you'll see is in the police and the fire department salary lines are going to be showing really highly spent because they're getting a stipend from this federal government because of the COVID situation. They will be reimbursing us, but it doesn't show in there. So you're going to see the numbers a little higher than we would expect it to be. But there is going to be, the state or state is going to reimburse us for that. One of the other concerns is that we've had some equipment, some expensive equipment with the fire department as well as the highway, unexpected repairs that have cost us quite a bit of money. And we have just found out that another piece of fire department equipment needs to have a big ticket repair. Don't know any more than that at this point on the tanker. So our equipment probably will be very close, if not overspent. But in the whole picture of things, we're going to be okay. The highway had their backhoe had a lot of repairs to it. Those are the major things. The town hall just has completed the public service changing of the lighting in the town hall. So now all of the town buildings are now with the I can't think of the correct word. Caroline, help me here. She's not there.
LED conversion.
LED conversion. Thank you. Sorry, couldn't come with it. So hopefully to see some savings very soon on that. I see. Don't know. I guess we'll probably go through. Our waste is still high, and we're working on how we can reduce that. But that was a discussion we had last time as well. So I guess we'll start from the first page. And if anybody's having questions and if I don't have the answers, then we'll definitely give you the reply via email like I did the last time. So, in the executive office section, is there any questions on that or concerns?
I have a question, not a concern. It's
Okay.
within. So I see the professional services is not at all is under, I guess I'll just say underspent. I don't mean to apply judgment. So is the board deliberately holding back because of the current situation, or is it just a timing issue? If you could let us know what might be going on in professional services.
Caroline, do you want to, is it okay? Is there any objection with Caroline answering some of these questions?
Not at all.
If we're shaking our
I have
heads
no
no, I
objection.
think we're going to be okay. All right. Caroline, do you want to address that one on the professional services?
I wouldn't say that the board is necessarily holding back on professional services. I anticipate that we will have considerable legal expenses this year. There is culvert work we could certainly consider doing with professional services. The board's had its plate full with other things and hasn't really evaluated that. But as a line as a whole, it's not necessary. The board hasn't specifically discussed that line holding back, though the general consensus of the board is there was a lot of uncertainty with state revenue for a long time, causing the board to be overall cautious with any unnecessary spending. So it's really more of a case of very limited spending overall rather than specifically trying not to spend that line.
Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Any other questions on the executive side? All right, hearing none. Elections and registration, we're going to be going into our third election in September. So we're pretty good on that in particular because they already showed the first two elections that we had. I don't see anything out. I mean, it's at 51% spent, and it is where it should be. We did authorize to obtain another ballot machine with the understanding that we're going to have an awful lot of ballots instead of people coming in and voting. So, but at this point, we're on hold and we can't get it at this point because they're holding back on other
Excuse me,
cities or
Denise,
towns.
am I the only one that's not hearing you speak? It seems to go.
You can't hear me?
Now I hear
Is
you.
it-
But it
I
was
heard
opening-
her. I was able to hear her fine.
Yeah, I can-
Okay,
I could hear her.
Okay.
all right. I might have had something covered. Let me see what I can
No, it's
do.
not you, Denise.
Okay, all right.
So Denise, I'm sorry, it's Suzanne. Can you repeat what you just said about the voting machine that is
We
it
had,
not available or you're holding back? I missed
they're
it.
holding back, the manufacturer's holding back in case other towns don't even have one. We have one.
Ah,
And so we authorized to buy another one because we're expecting a lot of ballots done off site and being mailed in. It affects the ballot machine sometimes because they're folded.
yeah,
And so Kate was very worried about that and then breaking the machine during the middle of an election
right.
because of all of the absentee ballots that may be coming through. Because they're opening it up. It doesn't even have to be sick. You just have to be fearful or whatever to be able to get a secret ballot now. So we did authorize it, but at this point, we don't have a yes or no whether or not we can get it. They're holding some, which we thought would be one for us. So if they don't get requests for them, then we certainly can get one. But it's still not sure if we're getting. So that wasn't something that was budgeted. However, I believe that we are going to be able to be okay with that budget in general.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions on that? All right. Financial admin total, we're I don't see any issues with that. If the audit is over, it went a little bit over by $908, but that is complete now, and that bills are in that line. So mapping, we're good there. Personnel, administration. Employee safety has a lot to do with COVID purchases. So masks, sanitizer, all of those kind of things that we needed to get. We are going to be submitting, because we have the CARES Act, we are submitting it, but I'm going to just get this verified by Caroline. The numbers still show in the line, even though we have been authorized a certain amount of CARES money. Correct, Caroline?
Well, let's just, if you don't mind, backtrack for a minute. The employee safety line was authorized before COVID became an issue, and that's first aid kits for all of the facilities in town. They cost more than that, but we zeroed out that line before it hit the facility line for each of those departments. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch your CARES Act question.
Oh, well, then that's not, I thought that was part of the CARES Act, but you're right. That's we put, where we hired a company to come in and put first aid kits in each building, and they will be coming in and replenishing it as it's needed. And so that's what that is. I thought that was also in the CARES Act, though. So we do have some, go ahead.
All of the money that is CARES Act reimbursable, all of those expenses are in the Homeland Security FEMA reimbursement lines, with the exception of the firefighter and police hazard pay stipends.
Okay. All right. So do you guys understand that, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. So, so any questions on the personnel and administration totals? It's at 36%, is doing well. Planning and zoning,
Denise, this is Angela. I did have a question, because I thought that looked to me like it was COVID related. If that is not, where is the line that I know that the town is eligible for COVID funding? And as I was looking at this, I didn't, and you don't have to address that right now. You can come back to it later. But I did wonder where I would find information about COVID relief and for what purposes. So that is my question about that line, which doesn't apply to that line. When you get to it, I'll ask.
Well, Caroline stated where it's at. Caroline, you want to verify that again, please, for Angela?
Sure, Angela. Most of the money that is CARES Act reimbursable is in the FEMA reimbursement line and Homeland Security lines later in the budget. I think it's after, it's near the building inspector and after the police department. With the exception of the hazard pay stipends for firefighters and police, which are in their respective salary lines. This is ongoing though, so we're still continuing to make adjustments. There may be expenses in the technology, the executive IT line, which will, I need to kind of audit that line. There may be expenses in that line that will get moved over to those FEMA and those FEMA and CARES Act lines. In terms of what they cover, eligible expenses include within what I'm about to say, they all have to be directly coronavirus related, but building modifications so that we can safely work with our coworkers and interact with the public, unexpected welfare expenses, technology, software and hardware, and PPE is the short list. Some election expenses also, like that voting machine, if we are able to buy it, would also be covered.
Okay, I think I'm looking now at lines 223 and 224. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. All righty. So planning and zoning. Wait a minute. I go back there. Their advertising and reimbursable expenses are overspent, but again, reimbursable expenses show on another line when they pay them. So we've had a lot of issues with some facilities. So we are working to make sure that we can make sure everyone is legalized. So government buildings, the only concern that I had, and I've spoke about it with Caroline as well, is heat at the highway garage. It's $111, 111% spent. We're going to be able to move money around, but it concerns me that it's that much, because we'll have like 2 more months of wintering that we need to make sure we have money for. But we're keeping an eye on that. And everything. 120.
Denise,
Yes.
Denise, on that line, I had a question about electric lines 87 to 89, which also seemed over. And I think on average it was the budget was 78% spent already on those 3 lines. And I didn't know if that was Eversource increases or what the issue was there, but just a concern. And again, it's not a huge amount that we're talking about, but those were accounts that were over 50% spent halfway through the year.
Correct. But I don't remember. Caroline, do you remember when the electricity the lights were changed at the fire station and highway? Was it the beginning of the year?
They were last fall. They were only, we just completed that project for the town hall. The other facilities were done, I think, late summer or fall last year. I'll also just say that AC uses a lot of electricity. So the summer is electric heavy, which, whereas winter is heat heavy. So like a month is not always equal to a month, just the same way heat is not equal to, it's not spread evenly throughout the year.
Okay.
This is
Does
Thank you.
the highway have AC?
No, I was speaking more about the town hall. No.
Oh, okay.
It's Suzanne, can I make an observation?
Yep.
The fire station, the fire station budget is considerably less than it was the year before. So might it just be, at least on that line, a case of we weren't sure exactly how much the LED was going to have an impact.
Yeah.
So we knew it was going to have some impact, so we reduced the budget. So we just need to take a look at this, I think, going forward, to kind of just recalibrate and have it match, the reality of a full year in the case of fire station.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Right. Also on the fire station maintenance, we had to, where to go? Hold on. A minute. Sorry, I lost my place here. Fire. You're going to see where it's, yep. You're going to see where we're overspent on that. Unfortunately, we had a disaster at the fire station and we had to replace the furnace without it being budgeted. So it also had to be all repiped, and we have changed our provider. So we are now all propane, and my understanding is, because I've seen them there 3 days this week, is they're now installing the heaters at the fire station that we had to authorize to have. The furnace just wasn't the right type of furnace for the fire station. We had them move it to the highway, and we're going to try to see if we can get some money, because it's a fairly new furnace, but it just it isn't the right thing for the fire station to have. So the setup and everything was incorrect. So we're going to try to see if we can sell it, put it out for a bit, see if we can recoup some of that money. So, but that, hopefully everything that we have done is going to help the budget for 2021, but you are going to see some overexpenditures for 2020.
Denise, when you say that there was a disaster, do you mean disaster as in financial disaster, or do you mean that there was some kind of an incident that occurred with the existing system?
It kept on shutting off in the middle of the winter, and it's not a manned station. It could have been a huge disaster.
Gotcha.
I couldn't give you the detail of the whole. I mean, Mark can clarify that when the next time when we talk with the department heads, but they would come in and it would be off.
Gotcha.
So in the wintertime, you just can't do that with all that expensive trucks in there, and the heat going off was not a good thing.
Yeah, I just remember that the old system was oil and wasn't sure if there had been some sort of a, oil spill or release. When you say disaster, that's the kind of thing I was thinking of. So glad it was not that.
Yeah, no, but we're gonna take care of all of it. The tank is gonna be removed and everything. And they already have the propane tanks already there. And like I say, they're hooking up. It was this week they were hooking up the new furnaces, and they're going to be hung from the ceiling versus a furnace in the maintenance room, they call it. So I believe it's going to be the better thing for the fire station. Unfortunately, we weren't able to budget it. And has anybody got any questions on the government buildings? I mean, we're still at 52%, so it's not bad. It's just some departments are worse than the others.
Denise, can I
Yes.
ask a question? This is Michelle.
Yep.
With the transfer station and repairs, where that one is over as well,
Transfer station and repairs.
right underneath the fire station.
Station repairs. Transfer station repairs. I am not coming up with a reason. Caroline, do you know what that was? I can't remember.
That's the roof over recycling.
Oh, and that's where it went, is under repairs and maintenance. Okay. As you can, if anybody who's using the transfer station, you know that they're putting a roof over the recycling bins because we have to keep the recycling product clean. And when Middleton gave them a quote on how to build the roofing that they did, they misjudged on it. And so they had to go get some more metal roofing.
Okay. Thank you.
Were there, Denise, were there any conversations about what I brought up at the last time we talked about the roofing? Like the
You mean the
potential
sliding of
for
the
ice
sliding of
and
the
snow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I brought it to their attention, and they said that they will make sure that doesn't happen.
All
Because
right.
you can brush it off easily, without it being done because it's melting. So
Okay.
I've already talked to
Thanks.
them about that. Yep, you're
Great.
welcome. All right. Cemeteries are they're looking good. Regional Association is this one-time payment. Property liabilities one-time payment. Police Department contracted services. We're pretty much doing okay there as well. I don't see anything that really is standing out. Does anybody have any questions about the police department?
Yes, I've lost my own, I'm bringing up my laptop, but I noticed that contracted services was up, which is a good sign for the revenue part. Is that, was it unexpected, or am I reading that correctly?
I know that they've had more than they were expecting, yes.
And
But
that's a
like,
good, that's a good thing, right?
yes, because it gives us more revenue. Yes.
Thank you.
So that one wouldn't be as alarming as other things within a budget.
Right. I mean, you have to pay for it. We still have to, you have to cover.
Well, we have to pay our,
stuff.
yes, but we get a
But you've
percentage
got-
of it. Right.
Right.
That offsets the budget. So, I mean, they're in pretty good shape. They're at 46 or almost 47%. Fire department, as I remember, the 87% is because it's containing the stipend that is coming from the state. Firefighters are getting $300. Oh, Caroline, is it by the month or is it by the quarter?
It's for a specified period of time of 8 weeks and 2 days, and full-time police officers are getting $300 per week. Part-time police officers and firefighters are getting $150. per week if they are available to work, and only one payment per agency. So we're not really paying all of our people that, because some of our people work for other agencies that are paying that. So they only get one stipend.
Right. So if they're on another department, it would get it from that other department and not from us. But
Could
that's
I ask a question, Denise? This is Michelle.
Yeah.
I think Caroline said earlier that the hazard pay was within the line of police and fire, but fire is high and police is normal. So is it that the police are not getting it, or?
Was police showing in the FEMA line? It's still showing.
No. Michelle is quite right that fire is overexpended and police is not. And the reason that police is not as drastically overexpended is because we're down an officer. So we've had one officer resign, I think, in February. So we haven't been paying those wages. So while we have been paying the stipend, we haven't been paying the wages we would have expected to pay overall.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't that mean don't we make up for that with overtime, or how does that, or we just have less patrol?
Both.
Potentially both, John. It may even depend on the week and availability. Currently, we only have one part-time officer working. The chief is trying to reduce the number of people in the department. So likely it's more about a reduction in coverage than about overtime, but we're probably still seeing, juxtapose that with, we're probably still seeing overtime because there aren't the part-time people available. So I think it's a combination of both.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So fire department otherwise looks pretty good, except for the salaries, and remember the potential of some equipment repairs that probably aren't showing in here because they're just recently happened. So we're hoping that it's going to be okay. Building inspector is right on target. Highways and streets, I think we're really good there. I mean, they seem to be on target. The vehicle and repair and maintenance, that is the backhoe that they had some unexpected work that they had to get done. So that explains the overage being 70%. But in the whole picture of things, it looks good.
Denise, Suzanne, can I ask about the status of the road surface and what the board has decided to do and what you anticipate the 2020 expenditures to be?
Well, at this time, we still are going to defer Woods Run, right? Woods Run, defer it until next year, just because we don't know what's going to happen in the whole picture of things with the budget. Sligo is complete, and they're working on the sidewalks down on Main Street.
Do you know approximately how much you anticipate expending from that line?
Which line?
The roads, the road maintenance, the one with the $325,000 budget.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like the expenditure is updated. Do we not have that bill yet, Caroline?
We don't have that bill, and if I remember correctly, it's something like $140,000. And the quote to do Woodlands, the old quote that we have is something around $116,000. So it won't be more than half spent, but there were also repairs, patch repairs such as Cohen Drive. So I don't have an estimate offhand for the total expenses of that line, except to say that it will be more than $100,000 underspent, at least the way the board is going at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
We did also have a requote done just in case the pricing had changed, hopefully going down. And we made that decision last week, so we haven't got that requote yet.
So this is John again. So what concerns me is that I walk Woods Run regularly, and I'm seeing cracking in the pavement, and it really concerns me that we're leaving it unsurfaced, and I'm worried about damage. And I'm wondering if we're getting any kind of professional engineering evaluation as to what the longevity of leaving these things unsurfaced is. I mean, I know we hear from the contractor, oh, it's okay, but there are people who specialize in pavement design and pavement management, and so I'm just wondering how we're making those decisions. And I see Sligo Road, the same thing. I'm seeing cracks in lots of places where water's going to get in and could potentially do damage to a lot of work we've already put in. So you don't have to answer it now, but I just encourage you, Denise, to take that back to the board and think about that decision pretty hard. It's a big investment.
So whereabouts on Sligo Road is there cracks? And the one that was done last year?
Yes.
It can't be the new one. Okay.
There's even cracks in the new one in places, settlement cracks. So yeah, they're not huge, but the fact that it's starting to crack makes me worry. That's where water gets in and deteriorates the asphalt. So
I'll have George, we'll have George go down and really look at this carefully and take some pictures and give us his thoughts on it, and also to make sure that it was done properly by the paver. Because why would the new ones be cracking already when it's less than 2 months of when it was completed? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they're yeah, I don't know the difference between the sub base and the top coat, but I would encourage you to consider someone who has the expertise to talk about pavement. I think George is a great guy, but I don't think he's an expert at pavement. Anyway, we can talk about that at another meeting, but it's just a big investment we're making, and it would be a shame to have it, fail prematurely.
Oh, all right. Very good. We'll make sure that happens. So, street lighting is good.
Can I just make a comment? I'm sorry. This is Michelle.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I've been in town since 1985, and every year on the budget committee, I would talk about the sidewalks. So I am thrilled that although they aren't really structured sidewalks, what's been laid down, at least the surface is walkable. And I know I had talked to George, and he said that they're continuing to do the asphalt going down. So I just want to say thank you that after 30 years or however long I've been here battling the sidewalk war, that we finally will have a walkable sidewalk downtown.
Yeah, this one is probably going to only go to Town Hall. Then we'll have to come back and go from Town Hall to Front Street, just because of the cost. So, but yeah, they're trying to do the best they can to get that finished too. Okay, so the transfer station, we know that, we know our tipping fees are up. We know that this.
What line is that when you say the tipping fees? I don't think I saw what you were warning us.
210.
Okay, but it's still under 50%.
Yeah. But we know that we were higher. Hold on, let me go back. Caroline, are all the bills in for the transfer station?
Transfer station bills always have probably a 6-week lag. So, well,
Okay.
and that's true of many of the expenses in any report that you get, even though it's a Q2 report. It's never going to really have all of what we've encumbered through that period. It will only be the bills that we've received and paid through that period. So, no, I don't think that those lines represent the bills that will represent that period. It probably is missing at least one bill.
Okay. So, I mean, it's not extreme, but you know, it's an area that we're watching.
Well, can I add another comment? It's Suzanne. I mean, I do see that, you know, what we did last year and what the town suggested last year was to have two separate lines, one for demo and one for municipal solid waste. And so where the budget for both of those in 2019 was like a little over 43,000, the budget this year is over 60,000. So the budget itself does represent an increase over last year, but other than the caveat about being, you know, a bill behind or something, right now anyways, it doesn't look awful, but we'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed that it won't go over. Let me see. Think anybody else have any questions on page 7? Because those are pretty routine things. Other than that, a FEMA and health and animal control. I don't see any.
I have a quick question back on the waste. Just questioning on like the recycling hauling. It looks like we're at 65%, but then our actually recycling, we're not even at 50%. Are those any way related or not related? Is that odd that wouldn't coincide?
Caroline's going to have to help me on that.
You would hope that there would be of course there's a correlation. It's just not necessarily easy to say what the correlation is. We don't have a lot of data about how much money of expense equals a haul. Every recycling commodity is different with how much we have to hold before we can haul it. So it's really hard to predict what the hauling will be. You know, plastic takes a year to get enough to haul, whereas cardboard happens much more quickly. I guess my comment about that is it probably has more to do with cardboard, and I can look into that, but with everybody being home, waste, at least initially, increased, and particularly cardboard with people shopping online and receiving lots of boxes. It would make sense to me that cardboard would be up, but I can look into that and see if there's something in particular. But because there are a lot of commodities and everything has a different trucking rate for how frequently we truck it, it's kind of, some things we don't even truck every year, so it's kind of hard to predict. There's not a direct one-for-one with those.
Okay. I mean, it's not a lot of money. I was just curious because the recycling was so far under, if it was so related, if we were exposed a lot on expense or not.
I'll see what I can figure out and report back to Denise about that.
All right. Animal control is good. General assistance, we're doing pretty good. Thought we might see something a little more with the COVID relation, but we're doing well. The other line where you see, because we only budgeted $1 for other, and that reflects we had to have someone take a taxi. So it was $185 to have a taxi. So that's why it shows 180.
Denise,
18,000%. Yes.
it's Suzanne. So
yeah.
What do we expect? I mean, are we really expecting an apocalyptic increase here? I mean, are restrictions on eviction already been lifted, or is that yet to happen? What might could things really befall us that are not good here? Do we have any way to anticipate that, or is it just?
I don't know how we can anticipate it. I just know that, you know, with the rules of the coronavirus, they can't evict, and you know, what can that happen now? When did that happen?
I'm sorry. Yes, the emergency order staying evictions has been lifted. So that will start any time now. They've extended the process timeline, so it takes longer to evict people than it usually does. There's an increase in aid for people who have back rent to help people pay off their back rent. Utilities are starting to be able to collect from people, but they have to offer at least a 6-month payment plan for people. So while those emergency orders have been lifted, things are allowed to move forward financially, and there is some help for that. But the shoe is very much in the air, pending a big drop, and we can't further than that predict it.
Correct. So,
And I think too, doesn't the increased unemployment funding go away next? I think that's next week it ends. So that's another factor that may
yeah, that's not a, yeah.
jump
So,
this up.
I mean, we're okay right now. Just keep our fingers crossed that we maintain that. We'll do the best we can on that.
Denise,
Parks and
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is Michelle. Could I just ask a question going back to the ambulance service where it doesn't appear to be paid? Is there something different with the ambulance? Don't you just have a one-time payment?
Well, did they invoice us, Caroline?
Michelle, you're right. It is a one-time payment and it needs to happen, and it just hasn't happened. So you can expect that it will for the full amount, and it should be happening soon.
So
Do they? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Do they invoice us, Caroline, or do we just automatically send it to them because we have a contract?
We can usually send it to them automatically. The board still authorizes it, even though it's a contract. That's our internal process. So, but it's typically something they reach out for and say, hey, it's that time. But there's not a formal invoice. The substantiating documentation is merely the contract.
Okay. Michelle, did you want to say something?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Parks and Recreation, I'm not sure that you all knew, but we canceled Summer Camp Raleigh this year due to the coronavirus, so that is not going to be spent. We have not at this time hired a rec director. That wasn't part of Camp Raleigh. It was going to be a part-time rec director for all of Rollinsford, not just summer camp. We have prepared a job description, and that it's been approved. We're just kind of waiting to see when the right time is, because if they can't do anything because of the COVID and social distancing, we may have to defer that. But we do have a job description now, and we are ready when we believe it is safe to pursue recreation in some fashion. Let's see. Library is on target. The other category, those are all paid towards the end of the year, or at least at the end of the third quarter. The stipends that we give to these organizations. Debt service, I believe it's okay. Cruiser. Town hall assessment. We have not done the town hall assessment yet. Looking into options, and is the cruiser in Carolina? It is in, right? But it's not the cruiser.
I don't believe it's in. And so I think it may have gotten hung up in manufacturing chain delays.
Okay. And the forestry has been ordered, but not in yet. I know that. And sidewalk repairs is what Michelle was talking about. That's where the money came for that, the warrant. So that's in the process. We just haven't paid the bill for it yet. So I think that's my spiel. Any other questions or comments?
Are you going to go through the revenue, Denise?
I'm going to ask Caroline if she would do that because she knows more about it than I do. You all got a copy of it. If everyone's okay with Caroline doing it.
Yep.
Fine.
All right. Oops. Caroline, do you have it with you?
I do have it, yes. Thank you, John, for presenting, though. That's helpful. Big picture of revenue is not as bad as we would have thought. It was scary for a long time because the state would not weigh in on what we could expect for rooms and meals tax, which is our largest revenue from the state. It's $130,000. We don't receive that until December. Come to find out that while the legislature usually has that figure calculated as one would expect as a percentage of rooms and meals tax received from the state, dispersed from all the communities that collect it. Actually, more recently, the legislature has instead just voted to give communities what they got in previous years. And that's the only reason. Yes, so that's the only reason we're getting our full amount this year, which is a huge safety for us with revenue. That was of grave concern. However, we cannot, that has not been determined for next year. I wouldn't say that we can count on that for next year. So
what
at least
about the highway money from the state, Caroline?
So far, the highway grant money is intact, or at least we've not been notified that it's not intact. So we seem to be completely safe on the state front. And really, most notably, everything seems more or less on target with our other revenues. Planning fees are, you can see, are line 15 there, 89% received, way higher than we would anticipate for this time of year, which correlates to the expenses you saw in that department. Most planning expenses are reimbursable, and that's where you see that. We've had a lot of heavy cases that needed a lot of technical review and engineering review. Motor vehicles is down, but only slightly. The companies in town that have fleets of vehicles are not necessarily registering their full fleets. But otherwise, things are more or less on target. And though we have not received all of our highway block grant money, as you see, is where we would expect to be for this year. So like I said, we haven't heard that we're going to not receive that money. So at least at this point, I would say revenue is looking pretty good.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
It's not, it's related, but it's not really revenue. It's in order to try to ascertain how we think the town is doing during all of this upheaval and disturbances with the virus and economic issues. So I know we had this conversation, I think, off on the side once briefly, but how are tax revenues looking? Because that wouldn't that tell us if people are hurting or not, if they're not able to cover their halfway taxes?
Indeed, I was paying attention to that because that's the best marker, the most obvious marker that we have for how people are doing. I'm happy to report that for the billing that just went out that was due July 1st, we have less money outstanding at this point than we did last year. So remarkably, property owners in Rollinsford seem to be okay, or else they are prioritizing their property taxes over other things. You know, with that and welfare, I think we're doing people in Rollinsford seem to be doing remarkably well, or else we don't have another measure to know that they're not.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I mean, can I ask John if anybody else has any, I mean, it's probably just anecdotal, but if anybody thinks differently about how the town is doing, I would like knowing about it.
I'm not seeing anything. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I'm in a bubble myself here. But okay, thank you.
You know, I have seen, you know, the John Oliver's last week tonight or whatever it was. He just did it on evictions and with the stimulus money drying up and evictions coming forward. I don't think we can predict what's going to happen, but it's probably not going to be good.
So this is Joe, and John, I sent you a note. I had dropped off the video because the quality was the audio on my end was horrible. But can people hear me okay now? Because I do have a question.
We can.
Okay, great. So I know the last time we had our last budget meeting, and we talked about there was a concern that things could get very bad, and the town wanted to be very conservative in any discretionary expenses. And that all makes sense. But now we're seeing the revenue, at least in mid-year, seem to be okay. And I know there were some things, and I dropped off just around the time of didn't switch, the quality was bad, around the time of reviewing the highway department. And there were some things put on hold that John mentioned about the paving of the Woodlands and finishing up Sligo and the concern for all that. And I understood that at that time. But does that still make sense now? For this, even, and I think I come at it from a couple different things. One is the revenue here obviously looks to be fairly solid, but I also know in the few years that I've ever looked at the town's budget, we've always done a good job of over budgeting or underspending, whichever way you want to go. And for example, if I look at the 2019 year-end expenditures, that was almost $170,000 under budget, which is good. So given all that in play, and given, you know, the risk that John is bringing up about the roads that was just partially done and maybe concern in making things worse, can that go into the factor of deciding whether that work should proceed or not? And I guess this is a question for Denise.
Yeah, George, at our last meeting, George had told us that the pricing of tarring was going down. So we asked him to get another quote for the Woods Run. So we don't have that yet. So we don't know what it's going to be, but we're still looking at ways that we can still accomplish that, knowing that we are still going to be okay, the whole budget, the whole picture.
Okay. So
we are definitely looking at it. I didn't know about Sligo, and that concerns me as well, but I mean, if it's cracking and it's brand new this year, that concerns me. So I'm gonna talk to George and get some answers on that as well. But
okay, I guess I just want, from a budget standpoint, I just wanted to bring up about it looks like the road revenue side looks okay, and I know in general we're very conservative on what we budget for and what we actually expend. So there's I look at it as saying, look, there looks to be enough money to do the things right without taking a risk of having to spend more money down the road. Because we didn't do something in 2020 and we should have. Instead, we hold it off to 2021, and there's more expenses involved with that. So that was the point I wanted to make. It's obviously the select board's decision.
And Denise, my understanding is it's not off the table. You guys are still considering it, right?
We're looking at, we're looking at the options. I mean, we still have to be conservative until, well, nobody knows when this is going to go away. So there are other things that are affecting us in the long term. So we want to make sure that we're not going to get ourselves too deep into a problem. But we're looking at it, and we're getting another quote because George said their prices went down, so that could help us in that avenue. So, it's not off the table. It's just it's not 100% we're going to do it either.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I'm all set, John, if you want to, unless anybody else has any questions. All right.
Thank you, Denise.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice job.
That's a lot. Yeah, nice job. So now we're moving to Allison to present Rollinsford Water and Sewer District and budget review. And Allison, if this is your first time presenting, if you can kind of give an overview, areas that you think are of concern, that you think might be overspent or underspent, or those types of things, what your view is from now. And I recognize you're brand new to the commissioners. So, we're all going to be very understanding and not push too hard, but just what have you got so far? And I'll bring your budget up as soon as I can find it here.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for having me tonight. I'm happy to walk through the budget tracking as of now, but as I said in my email, it definitely is a work in progress. And there are a lot of unknowns. So as you said, I'm brand new, so I'm only 3 weeks in here. And so this is reflecting all spending that was occurring before I was a commissioner, although I was the treasurer. So on the water side, a big difference is that at the end of May, the prior board signed a contract, a very large contract with a contract operations firm to take care of the water side of things for $133,000. And that wasn't part of the budget, their proposed budget. So it's not really going to be reflected in the spending here because only one payment to that company has been made and it happened in July. So we're not really going to see the effects of that until the next quarter when we meet. But that makes me very nervous and uncomfortable because we still don't know what other costs are going to be associated with that, because it's my understanding that the $133,000 is labor only. So anything else that pops up is going to be in addition to that. So that's very concerning. And we can talk more about it as we get involved here. And also another kind of unknown is that I really haven't been provided with any background documentation on how the 2020 proposed budget was developed. It was very similar. The numbers are very similar to the prior years, the 2019, and I do have background information from that one. So a lot of it, I'm assuming they were following the same guidelines, but then when you get down to like the prop shared administrative and stuff, I just don't know the breakdown or what they were, how they came up with their overall number in that. So I really am not going to be able to speak to the individual items and how over or underspent those have been. And also just if we're following along with the same kind of categorizations as they had anticipated. So those are some of the unknowns, and we certainly can walk through things. And like I said, I'll answer as many questions as I can and get back to people with answers if there's anything I don't know the answer to at this point. But like I said, I mean, things could look a lot different next time because of the contract operations firm. And also the woman, there had been an administrator that had been hired on at the beginning of this year. And that position also wasn't part of this budget. But now she has since left just like a week ago, kind of abruptly, effective immediately. So that's another change. So it's kind of all over the place at the moment, but we're trying to get a handle on things.
So Allison, I've just a quick question with regard to the contract firm. They were brought in to run just the water side, and in the past, our superintendent was running both water and sewer. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep.
And so now, do we have excess staff?
We do not. So one Rollinsford employee, one water operator left Rollinsford Water and Sewer to then go work for the contract operations company. So that salary, has been weeded out now of our budget or our expenses. And the superintendent is now just shifted over and he has become called the lead wastewater operator. So anything associated with him any costs will just show up on the sewer side. And then we have one other full-time employee who had been doing wastewater operations, and now we, at least for the foreseeable future, are going to be splitting her time with the administrative duties and then the other half wastewater. So again, it's in a state of flux.
This is Suzanne. Are you anticipating a budget overrun? I mean, 130,000 seems like an awful lot of unanticipated expense. I mean, I guess you've lost one full-time employee who's now working under that contract, but that doesn't cover the whole 130,000. I mean, what?
Exactly. I've tried to get that information from one of my fellow board members to try to better understand. I haven't quite gotten all the details. I mean, I know in my own head the way that the numbers seem to match up, well, that they don't match up really. So the superintendent, like I said, I guess essentially demoted to just a lead wastewater operator, and his salary was adjusted based on that, but it still isn't a one-to-one match by any means with the new contract. So
And what's the length of the contract? Is it a one-year contract?
it is a one-year contract, yes.
And it's,
So
and
could I ask a question?
Sure.
Allison, with this company, what happens? I mean, we've always had an on-site, more or less, water. What happens when a well goes down, or some, all the little things that have happened where they're up there at 2 a.m. trying to figure it out? Where does this company come in?
Well, that is a great question, and we're still trying to get a full handle on it, or at least I am. I mean, the employee that left Rollinsford Water and Sewer to work for NESC, he does live in Rollinsford, so he would be available to obviously get there very quickly. The person, though, that is considered the lead operator of our water system, just based on his licensing, he is also managing 5 other water systems throughout the state, in the Lakes region. I'm not sure if they're all in the Lakes region, but I know at least most of them are. So he would be called. I don't know yet what the turnaround time is on actually getting him here. And like I said, I mean, he's the one with the more extensive licensing to be able to handle those problems. So we just had our first meeting since I've been a commissioner with the New England Service Company this past Monday to try to talk through some of those details. And I'm meeting the man Taylor that is the lead operator tomorrow, just to talk through a few things as well. But again, it's still so many unknowns. And we just recently found out that they also aren't doing any weekend coverage. And historically, we always had somebody checking the wells, 365 days a year. And now they won't be checking the wells on the weekends unless, except for, I guess, an emergency or maybe at an additional cost.
Right. Thank you.
So, Allison,
Yeah.
this is Andrew.
Hi, George. I just wondered, could you tell me what line number that contract service is going to appear on so we can keep an eye on it in the future as to how it grows and understand that's why it's growing? Which line item?
I think,
are you talking about other professional services here, or?
I think that's where they were expecting. I mean, I saw that that's how they had coded the first payment that they gave to them just a few weeks ago in July was under the other professional services. So I think that that's what they were expecting to do. So that's always the kind of black box line, it seems, often with the legal and everything else. But
So
Okay.
Allison, this is Angela. As I look at under other professional services, 8A, B, C, and D, I don't see anything there for NESC specifically.
right. Yeah, there is nothing there right now. What I have included here is just what the way the breakdown was to kind of figure out the proposed budgeted amount. So I didn't add a line for that since there wasn't a line before when they were drafting up the proposed and then approved budget. So I don't know if they would expect that it would just kind of go in the other line. But I can talk to Vern about that too, if he had a plan.
So, since this contract was signed, are you aware of any incidents that required emergency intervention that would have been additional cost to the district since this contract was put in place?
I am not aware of it, that there have been any emergencies that have happened to date since they took over on June 1st. No. I mean, the only additional cost that I've seen is on, so every year the system has to send out a consumer confidence report, water quality report that details just if there had been any detections or violations of any of the drinking water contaminants over the health thresholds. And you have to send that out to all the customers by the end of June. And so New England Service Company took over on June 1st. And in the contract, it says that they will be handling the consumer confidence report, but apparently there was either a misunderstanding or they had been under the impression they were only going to be doing the one moving forward, because the one that just went out this June is based on 2019 data, which they weren't doing the sampling then. But I guess, I don't know if it wasn't talked through thoroughly or what. So it was a scramble and they did end up doing it. But in a nutshell, I just saw the invoice and then we got charged $1,400 for that service that had been listed in the contract as being covered. So I did bring that up with them on the call the other night. I'm not sure if they're gonna consider waiving that, since it seemed like an unexpected cost, but I'm just worried that there are gonna be more things like that.
Well, that actually is my other question. I was on the Monday call, the bi-monthly meeting of the district, or now weekly meeting of the district.
Yeah.
Well done, Allison. You're working so hard on all of this. So I just want to hold that up to the budget committee about what a fantastic job you're doing, pulling it all together. So on that call, there was some discussion about that 24/7 coverage by giving them access to the system, electronic system, the online system that runs the two, that run from the two wells that might indicate a problem. And somehow that wasn't part of the contract either. And I'm curious about any additional cost. It surprised me that that wasn't built into the contract. Nonetheless, is there additional cost that you're anticipating associated with giving access electronically to the systems?
Yeah, that conversation has been had, not necessarily with NESC since I've been on the board, but correct. So right now at the wastewater treatment plant, there's the SCADA system where Ray, the former superintendent, has remote access to be able to observe the wastewater treatment facility, but also the water tower and some things that are going on at the wells. And it has alarming built in there. So if the level in the tower dropped to a certain level, he would be alarmed. NESC does not have remote access to that. And we wouldn't want to give them remote access to that exact system, because then they would have access into our whole wastewater system, which would not be appropriate. So that would have to be separated, which it's my understanding that that would be an additional like $8,000 to $10,000 to have to separate that in order to give them access. And it is very concerning that that wasn't already figured out prior to them taking over the water system. But so as of right now, they don't have a way to be alarmed if certain things went wrong and nobody was on site.
Thank you, Allison.
Sure.
Allison, can I ask a question?
Sure.
This is Michelle. You said that it wouldn't be appropriate for them to have access. Can you just explain why the superintendent would have access, but it wouldn't be appropriate for them?
I just mean because it's tied into the wastewater. the wastewater system. So since they aren't licensed wastewater operators, for them to be able to be logging in remotely, it's my understanding, and I'm definitely not an expert on the system, but then they could be kind of mucking around or accidentally, kind of click something or move something over or do something to our wastewater processes that would not be a good thing. I'm sure it would be not intentional, but so that I know that Ray, as the lead wastewater operator, would not feel comfortable having this other company, again, not licensed on the wastewater side, being able to get into that system and making adjustments, again, probably inadvertently, but just in case.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Often these systems have controls, so it's not just monitoring. You can turn pumps off and things like that. And so that's having control and making changes remotely is risky.
Right.
This is Angela again, Allison. I also want to comment on your budget format, which is so understandable. And thank you very much for breaking out the other expenses, both in the prop share and under other professional services without, so that we can see them there. It's really helpful to have them presented in this way. So thank you for the effort you put into clarifying those budget questions we had ongoing.
My pleasure. Yeah, I mean, like I said, and I don't know if we want to step through it line by line, but as you do get down towards the prop share, I mean, I apologize because the level of detail for 2020 kind of drops off a bit, but that's mostly just because I don't really have all of the underlying data at this point. Hopefully I will get it, or at the very least, some more of the categories will be filled in, and so we can see how things are populated as they go, I guess, or as the months go on.
Are there any more questions specific to the water budget? So maybe we can move on to the sewer. We call sewer or wastewater.
I don't mind if you call it sewer. Okay.
You won't lecture us?
I will not. I won't.
Thank you.
Sure.
So what's the overall picture for the sewer?
The overall picture here is, I mean, this is maybe a little bit less of a dramatic or tumultuous situation, although because previously, at least as far as the salaries went, they were being split 50-50 for employees with the water and the sewer side. And now the Rollinsford people will all be pulled over to the sewer side. And then, we'll be paying the other company on the water side for the operations. So that kind of will throw things a little out of whack as far as the personnel go. And then otherwise, we had some issues at the pump station on Foundry Street. So on the second line, the maintenance and repair collection system, that has to do with the need for multiple repairs over there. I know there had been some issues with, I think people were just, maybe with the whole toilet paper crisis, I think people were flushing things they shouldn't have. So that was clogging things up more regularly than usual. And I think there have been some other kind of computer issues down there. So there have been some repairs necessary there. But other than that, I haven't seen anything that was jumping out as being too crazy on the sewer side at this point.
Any other questions on the sewer? Allison, just going back to water and this other contract, have you looked carefully at the termination clause of the contract, and is it specific that we're not able to terminate before 1 year?
It seems pretty specific for that. I mean, and it also says that they need to be told 6 months ahead of time in order to not renew the contract beyond the 1 year. So that there's that, but yeah, I mean, it's a very vague contract and a lot of things are not spelled out. So we tried to talk through at least some of those items the other day, but I just think that it's going to be a continued conversation. And it's been a little bit of a struggle even just to I don't know. I mean, I know you're not in the district, so you might not know the whole backstory, but it was never even discussed really publicly at a meeting that they were expecting to go down this route. It really just came on May 20th. There was a meeting, this company was there, they gave a proposal, but there was also a contract in hand and it was signed right then and there. And again, it's a rather vague contract because some other things came up when we were just talking the other night with them. And I was just very shocked that they wouldn't have already just explicitly, ironed out these details of what is the chain of communication. If somebody does have a water issue, who are they calling? And you know what I mean? Those things weren't already figured out, which I found very odd,
Well, this is aside from a budget discussion, but if you, I know it's extra money, but if you have an attorney, take a look at that contract and see if you really can't get out of it, because it sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
And this is Suzanne, and if I can, it's probably also completely irrelevant or out of bounds because it's not strictly budgeting, but the whole notion of this $130,000 contract had not been budgeted ahead of time and not been considered ahead of time, and to all of a sudden have this be part of a budget, it just doesn't seem. It may be legal. I don't know that, and I'm not suggesting otherwise. It just doesn't smell right to me, and I'll just leave it at that.
So.
Agreed.
Actually, this is Angela. I'm going to refrain from commenting at this point.
Okay. With that, I think we've thank you, Allison. Appreciate the effort, and it's nice to have clear explanations. So the last is Emily. You're up for the school, and I know that we usually don't have much of a change at this point. At the fourth quarter, but maybe you can just give a big overview, and I'll try and find the budget to pull up.
Yeah. So overview is that the school budget is looking really good. We don't expect that there may be a few fluctuations before it's finalized. As you know, we're at the end of our budget cycle. So June invoices are not in yet, but we don't expect there to be a whole lot of change there. At this point, we're at about we have about $290,000 left in our budget, and we have approximately $100,000 in warrant articles. So we expect that we'll be giving about $190,000 back to the town. Much of that is due to the fact that we got a tuition reimbursement from Marshwood because of the school closing early. So that was a $70,000 reimbursement that we received. And then we had some overall special education savings that factored into that as well. So that's great news. We also, at our May meeting, we approved spending on a safe and secure entrance, which if you have been following the school board at all for the past, decade, we've been talking about for a very long time. So that was pretty exciting. That came to about $33,000. We also approved an air purification system. So it's units that will go in each classroom to purify the air. And a few other schools in the state have employed these as well with great results, just like common cold wise, like getting more attendance, less sick absences. So we're hopeful that this will help make our school a healthier environment if and when we have, or I should say, when we have kids back in it. Someday we will have kids back in our school. We don't have a formulated plan for that right now. We also purchased a sanitizing mister. This is like a pump sprayer that sprays a sanitizer over surfaces, which will help our custodial staff really clean the building effectively and quickly. And we approved $7,000 for a storage unit. the need for that has increased due to our need to social distance in the classrooms. So we were able to approve all of those expenditures and still return around 190,000 to the town. On the COVID front, it's slightly off topic, but just to keep you up to date, we don't have a plan, a concrete plan yet from the administration for what the fall looks like. They are working diligently to come up with one, and we expect to have one by the beginning of August. So hopefully, you know, the community will know a little bit more about that very soon. And then the last thing is more of just a heads up for next year. Next year's budget, we got an engineering study done for a ventilation system, which we have been in need of for a long time. The school has very little and very poor ventilation just in normal times. But now that we have COVID concerns on top of that, it's become a much more immediate need. So they came up with multiple options to consider. We haven't made any decisions yet. We talked about it at one meeting, and that's all. We will continue to discuss it. But I just wanted to let you guys know well in advance that it may be something that you see either in a warrant article or in the budget, or a combination of those things coming up for next year. And that pretty much covers what I want to highlight for you. And again, as I normally don't do, I'm not going to go line by line through it, but if anyone has questions that rose up to the top for them, please let me know, and I will do my best to answer them.
And I would ask if anybody does ask questions to just give a sense for where in the report your question is, whether it's the section or we don't have line numbers on this. I don't see, so.
No.
Emily, I think, this is Charlie George. I think that overview page that you give is excellent, and that certainly makes it much easier to get a handle on. And thank you for your continued expertise and making it easy to understand what's going on with the school department.
It's all Katie Krause. I just make it look good.
I was going to say,
I cannot take credit for that.
Any other questions about the school budget spending at this point? Okay, that concludes the budget discussions. We're now to other business, and I know, Suzanne, you had something that you wanted to bring up at least. So go ahead.
Yes. So as a preface to what I'm about to bring up, I mean, my intent, I really don't have any wish to sort of throw a deck of cards up into the air with regard to our process, but it's just something that I would like us to at least think about and reflect on. And that is, in my own thought process, in trying to not have such a jam-packed, end of October, November, December, when I realized that departmental budgets, department head staff budgets were submitted to the board in the beginning of August, let's say, said, well, why don't we see them, start to look at them in September, thinking that what we are presented are the same budgets that the department heads present to the board. So it doesn't present any kind of undue burden to the head of the department. It would be the same budget that they present to the board. And then in having some conversation with both John and Denise about this, it brought me to the Municipal Association's handbook on the law of basic budgeting. And I was quite surprised by what I found out about all of this. And that is that it does say that in towns like ours, where we have an elected budget committee, that departments and officers submit their budgets to the governing body first, which is what has always happened. And then the governing body, so the select board in this case, submits the recommendations to us. It doesn't say that the department's heads have to come to us. What it does go on to say is that the schedule, the budget committee has the authority to request statements. The budget authority has the authority to request statements directly from department heads and other officers. However, while it may be helpful to the budget committee to discuss proposed budgets with the governing body, town administrators, managers, and department heads, the budget committee does not have the authority to require any of those officials or employees to attend budget committee meetings. So anyway, my whole thought in this was perhaps we could take a look at departmental budgets if we in fact would like to see them earlier, thinking that it doesn't create an undue burden to anybody because it would be the same budget that they would have had to prepare for the August. And that's really it. I'm not suggesting we make any changes this year, but that maybe we ought to, maybe it's good to think about why we do what we do and to see if it's grounded in sound practices or if we think we might want to change them.
Well, as you said in the Suzanne, it's really the process that's established from what you know from. I didn't go back to the handbook, but it sounds like the process that we follow, where the select board has a chance to sort of weigh in and then present to the budget committee. If we were to go back to, say, looking at what's initially submitted, and I'm sure that's. Well, I don't know if that's public information anyway, but it's just it is a more steps in the process for us, because we'd first see what the department heads are presenting, and then we'd see what the select board is recommending after that. So it's an extra step, right? Is that?
No, I don't see that at all. I mean, when I was on the board, Chief Ducharme would present the budget to us, and whenever he did come to the budget committee, it would be the same budget. And it was not necessarily how we the board might have acted on that budget. And so I guess I don't see any change. It's just that the town's budget process started later. And so that's why budget committee department heads didn't meet with us till later. The whole process was later. And so now that it seems to be starting earlier, which I applaud greatly, thank you to the board for doing all of that. I thought, well, if we're what you're suggesting, John, is that by the time we see a department head budget, it's already has been like sort of blessed by the town. That I don't believe that was always the case. And so, but again, I don't want to throw a deck of cards up. I'm perfectly fine staying with where we are, but I'd like to consider maybe that either we don't look at them at all, which is also fine with me. We just have the town, because we don't hear from the principal of the school.
Yeah,
so I'm absolutely fine just having the town present the budget to us, just like we have one person present the entire school budget, which is a lot more. But
yeah.
Can I comment on that?
Yep, me
Can I
too.
comment?
Sure, go ahead, Denise.
Okay, so I think the reason why it's always been that way is would be because maybe the department head and the select board, so to say, didn't have an agreement on the whole budget. It gave the department head the next level of being able to plead their case to the budget committee on why they wanted something that maybe the select board didn't support. I think that's kind of the reason why that they were doing that. If the budget committee, if the select board and every department head that reports under the select board were mutual, I'm not sure there's really a reason to have individuals, because we're all on the same page. It's more about if we don't agree with something and the select board removes something and the department is passionate about that thing that they wanted, you were the next level.
Certainly,
Could I add something to that as well? Because remembering back, and Denise, you were probably on the board at the same time I was on the budget committee. There were, before the department heads would come, I think it was just Ed telling us what the budget was, and there were 1,000 questions that couldn't be answered. And so every time we would meet, he would have this massive list to take back to the department heads. And I think over time, it became, why don't we just have them come present their budgets? They're the ones that are the experts. And then the questions would be answered and we were done. Is that what you remember as well?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, clearly we don't know all of the answers of each department and the responsibilities and why they need this piece of equipment. And other people can come up with different answers than the board would. But if we all support it based on what we know, then I don't really see a need. So it just depends what comes in and how we agree or disagree with something.
But wouldn't it be true? I mean, and I hear what you're saying, and I agree. It does give the department heads a chance to plead their case for something. But they have their budget done in August. All I'm suggesting is they can come plead their case to us in September. And then we will see when the board comes to us that, they've either done something with the police budget or the fire budget or they haven't. And then we could check with you, Denise, about what the board's thought was in either reducing something or increasing something. But in my mind, when we chat with the chiefs and road agent about what they're planning for next year, it's neither to undercut the board nor it's not to undercut anybody. It's just trying to elongate the process so that we're not meeting every blessed week, and just to kind of rationalize it. But that was my thought.
I think that makes sense, Suzanne, and what I've seen in the short time that I've been on the committee is sometimes we've had the select board's budget, and then someone will say, well, it's usually related to salary increases, and so it'll be okay. Well, what did they ask for? And they asked for 3%, and the select boards decided to give 2%, and those are usually where there's a difference that I've seen in the past. My short time, but I think all that can be transparent, and as long as we understand, and I see what you're saying now, Suzanne, it's not necessarily extra work. It's just we're having that presentation earlier on. We're asking our questions.
Correct.
If when it comes time that the select board's budget is put forward, if there's a difference, we can talk about what the decision was and why that was different, and that doesn't seem like too onerous a process. And I would say it has to be a lot less onerous than meeting every single week and having this crunch at the holiday period of trying to get everything done. So,
and also along with that is, for me, I'm always thinking about how can we make sure that we keep all of, as many citizens engaged in these processes as possible. So how can we make it so that, serving on the select board when I was there is not, it's not going to kill you, and that serving on the budget committee is not going to completely destroy your fall for 3 years. How can we make it so that it doesn't seem so terrible to people who start to ask questions about, what we do and why we do it. So there's, sort of that as well.
So this is good to lure somebody in to fill the vacancy. We'll make it better.
Preach, Suzanne, preach.
I feel like we've got a schedule that we've put forward. I mean, I'm not opposed to trying to adjust it at this point, but it seems like we've already all had this and made plans on it for this year. So I don't see making a change this year, although if anybody wants to make a motion and do something, that's all fine with me. I'm not dictating. But it seems like this might be something we consider for next year. But Suzanne, is that what is everybody else doing?
Fine. I really wanted to just kind of raise the point and have us think about this. And if we think we want to, broach it, there'll be enough of us on next year's, leftovers. We will be on again next year to bring it up for when we make that schedule. So I'm fine with that.
So can I just get clarification just to make sure, so I can bring it forward to my team? You're looking at having the department heads present to the budget committee and then, so you can hear their side earlier, and then the select board will come with what we have taken all of their recommendations and then made our budget, and that will be later after you've heard from them.
Yeah, the
So
usual
it's
time.
bringing the schedule up. I mean, we're going to meet the same amount of times. It's just going to be earlier versus November and December.
Only for the department heads, not for the board's presentation.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead of having every Wednesday for November and December, we could maybe bring it up to October, or, spreading it out a little more
Yes.
than having it be all. Okay.
And it gives us a little bit of flexibility when we need to add meetings. Because of the SB2 schedule, we are constrained more than what we have been in the past. And what we just did is we just constrained everything so that we could still meet the SB2 timeframe.
So if the department heads could be available, would you consider trying it later?
So I'm going to jump in here because we've only heard from Suzanne on this, and John, I'm a member of this committee. This is Angela speaking. I support the idea. Why not experiment with some sort of hybrid this year and see if it works well all around? I mean, it sounds, Denise, it sounds as if you've already got so much of the budget process completed with department heads by September. So I support the notion of trying something a little bit different this year in hearing from everyone on those differences versus on every detail.
Okay, I'm just going to comment on that. I mean, all due respect, I do have to talk to my team, and I also have to talk to my department heads to see if they can be available earlier than versus later. But if they can, I think we should try it. If we have some people who aren't going to be 100% on that, then we can defer it, that particular one, or leave them where they were. I just want to give them, I don't want to throw them, a monkey wrench into it if they aren't ready yet. I don't want them to fail. And
we haven't heard, I'll just say, it'd be nice to hear from everybody, and I'm sure you'll be thinking of that, John, but I will offer to work with Denise on some kind of a draft schedule that we can present either via email. I have to think about dates, but because we might want to think about this before our next meeting date. So I'm if the entire committee thinks that this is worthwhile to just take a look at a draft and see what it might look like, I'd be happy to work with Denise on some kind of a draft that she thinks she and her department heads and board think is okay.
I think we can't, obviously we can't deliberate outside of a meeting. So if you do come up with something, maybe we call a short meeting, kind of like what we did for the CIP, and get on and sort of talk about it, because otherwise I don't think we're not meeting now until
October.
Yeah, which is, usually we're meeting our third quarter, which is a week before we start doing our presentations. So this would affect the schedule, for our next meeting. Essentially, it would be sooner.
Okay.
I'm game. I'm happy to whatever everybody else wants to do. I'm good.
Well, this is Charlie George, and I'm on board with getting something done earlier. I'm flexible on my schedule. I mean, we have to make some changes as it is that you're contemplating in the holiday weeks. Let's not postpone that. Let's go with Suzanne's suggestion and try to make it work this year to make it easier on us, rather than have that hiatus and then the crunch. At least that's my feeling on it. I think it's a good idea.
Emily,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good idea.
Lynn, good.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard in December when we're meeting, November, December when we're meeting every week, and people are already crazy with holidays. So if we can spread it out, I'm definitely open to it.
Agreed.
Joe, are you on still?
Yes, I am. I'm fine with it. I prefer to get a little jump on this, on this kind of stuff.
Sounds like everybody's in favor.
Michelle, did you give your opinion?
My only thing was, I think I misunderstood when Suzanne was describing it. I thought what she was saying is the department heads would not be involved with the budget committee, but it sounds like she's saying they would be there earlier than normal. And so I would be all for that. I was just concerned that the department heads wouldn't be there to answer our questions.
That was my original concern as well, and got that clarified. So, but yeah.
I did say something like that, Michelle. It's Suzanne, only because that's what I saw in the municipal association. So I was just bringing that out. I wasn't suggesting that we not do it, but that is also a possibility. You know, we don't have to. That's our choice. And so
it's the select board's choice. It sounds like that we can't require them to come
correct.
forward.
Right.
But we as a select board can say you need to go to this meeting and present your budget. So, you know, and I highly support them coming to you because again, they are the expertise of what they do. And, you know, we just have to make sure you get clear answers the first time and not have me come back and give you their answers when they can give it right to you. I just think that's important. So.
Absolutely.
So do they normally have their budget to you by September, Denise?
No, that's why I have to talk to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually October. You know, I don't think anybody's done it in September, but I might be wrong. But it's more in the October time period. So, I mean, they're already working on their budgets. I know they are because they've already talked a little bit about some things because of what's happened this year. So all I can do is talk to them, and then I certainly can have Caroline send out a notice that we're a go, and then we can maybe meet and discuss it and reschedule if it's a go. I
must have misunderstood. This is Suzanne. I thought Caroline had said that the budgets from departments were due by August 12th.
But doesn't mean that we're going to meet with them, that they're due to us to review. Then we meet with them. So, you know, they each get their own day or night or whatever. So, and with, you know, being electronically, you know, not meeting in person, it's not as easy to, you know, schedule some of those things. So, but yeah.
And your meeting, Denise, when the select board meets with the department heads, I'm assuming that's a longer meeting typically than what they're presenting to us, or is it the same, pretty much the same?
It's probably a little longer only because we're discussing, maybe if there's something that we're not 100% agreeable, we might discuss it and just decide to go forward and bring it to you. So there might be more discussion in that part of it, but generally many of them are quick because they're not asking for anything more than what they had the year before, you know, so, but if they're looking for some big pieces of equipment or, you know, those kind of things, we could have long discussions.
I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about the cemeteries.
I think we can work on that.
Any other discussion on this idea? It sounds like we've got a way forward. There's a consensus here. If we need to discuss it further, we'll call a meeting and discuss it in that forum. With that, unless there's something else, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
Can I just get some clarity there, John? So are you saying that we're going to have another meeting to determine we're going to meet early, or?
Maybe. I don't know. I think that Denise and Suzanne are going to talk to the department heads and find out what the options are. Maybe there's no option. It comes back and we're just, you know, staying with the schedule that we have. maybe if we decide to change, maybe we can just call a meeting early and that'll be the first presentation. I haven't thought through it yet, but I'm willing to take any suggestions. But if there was any kind of direction that we needed to, or consensus that we needed to have, somebody mentioned, having a discussion on email about it, and I was just making the point we can't do that.
Right.
So that's all. So if there's no discussion to be had, that's fine. Maybe we just, if something works out, we call the first meeting and we can talk about what the next meetings are going to be from there forward, I guess.
Okay.
So really, it's only the select board's department heads and us that is affected by it. It wouldn't be the school or sewer and water, correct?
Correct. And right.
I mean,
No.
they may be able to move up if we move up, but they only are like one department
Well,
together.
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be changing any of the final presentations. I think those dates are set and that could cause a brouhaha. So it wasn't that, it was really just the department heads thinking that they needed to have their budget ready to present to the board. And so once that happens, they could just present it to us. And my understanding was that they were doing that process now earlier each year than they had the year before. So that's what we think. Let's see if we can get a head start on the departmental reviews. So just the departmental reviews.
I will talk with administration and the department heads, and I will get back to Suzanne and see if it's a go that we would go ahead and kind of lay out a schedule for you.
Sounds good.
Great. Any other questions or any other business that anyone wanted to bring up?
I don't have other business, but would just revisit the question of November 18th as a good meeting date for that November other meeting that we have to have in November, moving it from November 25th, which is the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, moving it from that to the 18th. And maybe we won't need that meeting at all, but could we at least resolve that we're going to move the 25th to the 18th? We don't have to do it now, but.
Yeah, I think that was on that we were going to look at that and revise because nobody wanted to meet the day before Thanksgiving. And so we will not meet the day before Thanksgiving. We'll probably pick that day. I just make sure that there's no other meetings and that we're not conflicting. So. Okay, I would take a motion to
Hey,
adjourn.
John, just one thing. John, so I can get these dates into my calendar, can you send out the updated list of dates that we talked about earlier on this call?
Which is subject to change, yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with that, but I'd rather still lock them down and so things don't get away from me.
Okay, no problem. I'll send the marked up version and that way everybody will see that it's not set in stone.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Now I'd take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Roll call.
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, we have to do roll call to adjourn?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Killing me, Denise.
Sorry.
Thank you, Denise.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
George.
Yes,
Charlie. Sorry, Charlie.
I answer to either.
Joe,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
I believe we have, it's a quorum. We are now adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Good night.
That little girl is so adorable. Oh my gosh, is she a personality? She is just so darn. Oh, she is. So what? She is just the bomb. Yeah.
God, she got him wrapped.
From the chimpanzee's extraordinary treetop world to the meerkat's secret life in the road. There are penguins' epic underwater adventures. Our cameras have revealed more we could ever imagine. Let's watch the movie.
Oh, it's 9 o'clock.
For our next mission, our cameras reveal the hidden lives of three very different families. We're camera scientists who design cameras to take us into their hidden world. This is their footage, their story, and we're going to see it through their eyes. Eyes stunning. Don't miss a single moment. You can watch nature online. Go to pbs.org to stream complete episodes from this season and seasons past. Visit Nature Online for production updates from the field. Go behind the scenes with our filmmakers. Needed to be able to shoot at high frame rates to capture these fast-moving monkeys. And get connected with nature's online community. All at pbs.org. Nature is made possible in part by the Arnold family and 45 ingredients for Respawn Gold. Sue and Edgar wanted I'm the third. The Fairweather Foundation. The Kate W. Casson Foundation. Kathy Chow and Ken Howe. The Lillian Gold Charitable Trust. Charles Rosen. Stolen and Legacy Foundation. Muscle P. Blizzard. Sandra Atlas Bass. Lawrence Marr and Robert J. Thomas. The Corporation for Planet Podcasting.
Oh, you can find a movie, but I probably won't stay for the whole thing here.
This program is available on DVD. To order, visit shoppbs.org or call 1-800-PBS.
Billy, what are you doing? Get out of the kids' toys.
We gotta pick them all up. Come on, Molly. Get away from
No toys.
all It's not a new house.
No, oh no, this, it's over. Yeah, we saw them. Go ahead and start it, because I don't care if I see it all. So.
across the world is celebrating the millennium. Next month, the Chinese begin the year of the dragon. The year 1698. Has it been that long? Seriously. Celebrating the US millennium. Why is it what for China, Hong Kong, and itself? Technology and creativity in the West. This new experience of the East. Much love again, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us. He's going to experience a Chinese labor camp if he doesn't stay on schedule. 10 minutes earlier, he started singing. All right, kids. We're good to go. Not so good. Don't you say he rubbed his face in the window? He does. Can't seem to answer it focus. You can never pay too much for good intelligence. What was up? Look at me. You're receiving. China's new future. Ready? Sure. What's wrong? Sick. That's good. Did you get that? Yeah. Sorry. Here we go. I knew you could fix this. Who's speaking? Well, you can take a re-answer your conscience. Sally. Yeah. maybe you should direct your attention to the big screen. Last month, it took $90 million of UNA money and spent it on Chinese missile technology. That money was for flood victims and starving children. I'm quite sure the North Korean government will. How do you think the world press is going to react to that? What do you want? I want you back at the negotiating table with South Korea tomorrow. That is impossible. It'll be easy. We'll just take a look at your mother. But it's still an impossibility. That's what I mean. If it's a possibility, it's a choice.
Friday they'll have corn.
Show everything your mother channel, the security channel. The man next to Chen is Alex Wingate, media. United States, United Europe, United China. There's no difference. But the 68% growth in China is a little more complicated than that. Oh, Alex, you know we're trying to contribute what we think we need. And you said, what you do? We? I'm an American. You know this means. Right, yeah, I got it. is return to the peace negotiations. How were you able to achieve this?
Common sense, patience, mutual respect, and an abiding understanding that there are cultural differences. We're all going to live with them.
Secretary General Douglas Thomas leads the UN after a successful return to peace negotiations for North and South Korea. Great.
I'm going to become another one of those famous Canadian peacekeepers. Not famous. Do you know how many Americans can make the Secretary General of the United Nations? 3%.
Well, that's all about to change because the press adored you and UN support is on the upswing.
Now that we held fair, they were fond of your tactics.
I know it's unorthodox, but you cannot deny the results.
This treaty with China could just go through. The United Nations could possibly become a world power. We could. Well, unless I think we should put a cap on covert operations for the time being. How's your fellow doing?
Needs a couple months to recover. He's in good spirits.
How do you give a medal to someone who doesn't exist for something that didn't happen?
You can try to assess.
I wouldn't give up your day job. Oh, sorry, I thought it was the end of the show. Shit. I thought you quit. Yeah, this is the last one. So that's what we call. Oh, okay. What? You come down here and do what? Force me to retire? Well, you know, the thought crossed my mind. But to tell you the truth, I was asked to check up on you. Who's supposed to find out how I am? Unless you come down here and see what's up. Well, you know as well as I do, man, a post doesn't do anything without gathering a little intelligence first. What, you think you're qualified to test me? Considering your fragile condition, I think I can kick your ass. All right, ready, ready? Well, come on, you gotta shoot him. Are you all right? Oh, God damn, man, you're bleeding. No, hold on, I'll take a look. Bleeding. Oh, yeah, you're gonna need some silk.
Somebody thank
You should.
You did a nice job. People like the doctors. What? Asians, Chinese, they're smart.
And what about these?
These people gotta stop getting shot in the job. I can arrange that. I'm too young to retire, so. Yeah, I'm young. You got it. Chinese food yesterday. Well, sure.
SBC thing in case these ones disappear last month. That's what it's stated. That's what they want. I think it's a big Chinese conference.
Sure, I guess you and the supervision. The factories that all those refugees were housed in Hong Kong. They wanted supervision to review the policies. 3个月之外，就有这个sweatshop。Talk of human rights. 3 miles from here, sweatshops. A mile from here, homeless people who go away. Yet you look at my country. Chinese ambassador Yang Seng. In 2 days, China signs a human trade agreement. Years of isolation. Only contributing commercially, opening the door to 1.5 billion consumers.
And you think Ambassador Wu was connected to the dead refugees from the boat?
I have my suspicions. Before becoming UN ambassador, he was responsible for refugee resettlement. Here he is meeting with a gentleman tied to various triad concerns.
Slave traders.
Exactly. My instinct tells me something is lurking on the surface.
Always think something's lurking on the surface.
Tonight, David Chan is hosting a banquet honoring Ambassador Wu.
You want to put my own?
If you're ready, how's the shoulder?
Technically fucked up. Where she is? Oh, Lord. Here. I've been looking for you everywhere. I don't believe we met. We still have it, sir. Yes, of course. Would you excuse us, please? We've been watching the Security Council. He was going nuts in there.
Yes, I saw.
Better do something about it.
Oh, he's been briefed. We're moving forward.
I'm guessing Thomas is not a fan.
On the contrary, with the achievements of last year and the Chinese trade agreement on the horizon. Thanks, Steve. One of the many reasons I can't let you quit.
I want to play. But in the last 2 years, I've been shot twice. I've got 6 broken bones. I don't even have a health plan.
You know we are owed billions in dues payments. Every UN staff member has taken
Yeah, so maybe I should make a move before I get cut back. I mean, find a career.
career. Like what? CIA, NSA? There's no guarantee.
McDonald's. Yeah, I'm gonna own one.
Sure.
Yeah, they do. These have to be over his day. Home, they go, but the McDonald's. They last forever.
All right, your point is taken. But right now, we have a situation that's rapidly deteriorating into a political time bomb.
No parachutes, no submachine guns, just a simple eavesdropper.
Walk in the park.
This is New York City, baby. Set the walk in the park and get you killed.
China's president, David Chan, is a rival diplomat who are welcoming China into the World Trade arena. China. Hold it! Your microphone is talking into me.
No, actually, it's outside.
Greg, you read reports on huh? Could get real tough.
Smooth.
possible. Yeah, another thing, that in regards to your present, Dr. Hampton, well, first, move from a society that discourages individualism, then to a city that embraces it. 3 years is easy. Take the pressure. Sure.
Access to China. See, this is a major shift in facts. Two sides considered particularly Chinese. So, very,
That's just complaining about the menu. Seems he's under some obsession with cuisine. Somebody should have done that.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your warm welcome and your presence here this evening. China and the West began their history together, not in war, but in trade. It is trade that brings us all together tonight, and it is trade that will bind us and unite us here. You can go in the pool.
I did.
You liked it?
No, Nina didn't. I did.
Oh.
Donna and I did. A little bit.
在这里上走下。
China wants to become a member of the club. By this plan is destiny. Next stop is signing a UN trade agreement. 1.5 billion Chinese will have access to the world markets that will They're already. 1.4999. Without any further delay, here is the architect of China's future, Ambassador Jiang Zigu.
This too long. He's not keeping up. It's recording. I'll keep the tape once we're done.
No way, I think you can achieve the diamond.
Today, I'm very happy to participate in this party. I'm honored to open the door of China to the world.
That's, right.
I have no idea. I'm not paying attention. I'm not watching.
Into a political time bomb.
No parachutes, no submachine guns, just a simple eavesdrop, right? What happened, sir? Of course. Would you excuse us, please? We've been watching the Security Council. He was going nuts in there.
Yes, I saw.
You better do something about it.
Oh, he's been great. We're moving forward.
I'm guessing Thomas is not a fan.
On the contrary, with the achievements of last year and the Chinese trade agreement on the horizon, thanks to you. One of the main reasons I can't let you quit.
What a wonderful play. In the last 2 years, I've been shot twice, 6 broken bones, and I don't even have a health.
Well, we are owed billions in dues payments. Every UN staff member has taken the cutbacks.
Yeah, so maybe I should make a move before I get cut back. I mean, find a career.
Career? Like what? CIA, NSA? There's no guarantee.
McDonald's. Yeah, I'm the owner.
Shaw.
Yeah, big too. He's actually always they go, but the McDonald's. Hey, that's forever.
All right, your point is taken. But right now, we have a situation that's rapidly deteriorating into a political time bomb.
No parachutes, no submachine guns, just a simple eavesdrop.
Lock and Park.
This is New York City, baby. Set the ball in the park and get you killed.
Is a rival diplomat who will welcoming China into the World Trade Arena. Let's try another. Hold it! He's over here. Your microphone is talking into me.
No, actually, it's
Just
not.
listen. Greg, you a reporter, huh? Could it be good time?
Smooth.
That's it. Yeah, I know that thing. And in the gas, your face did. Don't know how to do it. Well, first, move from a society that discourages individualism
face it, 3 years is easy. Take the bishop. Sure.
A lot of American companies would love unrestricted access to China. You see, this is a major shift in powers. Two sides considered for China. Chinese is considered. That's a very,
That's just Seems he's under some special improvements and the jeu.
you know, like big face numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your warm welcome and your presence here this evening. China and the West began their history together, not in war, but in trade. It is trade that brings us all together tonight, and it is trade that will bind us and unite us for years to come. This is the agreement brings to fruition years of hard work, years on both sides, to my people, economic prosperity, rewards in the era of peace. Go to the next level.
要是让可过了之家大概创展事业，在这里要走下。
Yes, China wants to become a member of the club to revive this planet's destiny for the next 1,000 years. Signing of the UN trade agreement, 1.5 billion Chinese will have access to the world markets that will there already. 1.4999. Without any further delay, here he is, the architect of China's future, Ambassador Jiang Zibu.
Whenever this too late, I just not keep it's recording. I'll keep the tape as we done.
No way, I think you and Ji and I come.
Today, I'm very happy to participate in this party. I'm honored to open the door of China to the world